There is no shortage of Bluetooth earbuds, but there's also no shortage of poorly fitting ugly Bluetooth earbuds, such as the Apple AirPods. A fairly new company into this field is Sport&Outdo. Their shtick is sports-oriented audio gear. One of their newest options is the Mifo S, a Bluetooth earbud aimed at those who live an active lifestyle. Sport&Outdo sent me the Mifo S to review. This product usually costs around $150 but can be found on sale on Amazon and on Sport&Outdo's website. Let's find out what this thing has to offer. Sport&Outdo promise premium sound quality from the Mifo. They say that the drivers are tuned to provide, quote, a balanced and authentic sound with fine details. The earbuds have 3 microphones on each side for active noise cancellation and are IP67 waterproof. This means that the Mifo should be sweatproof and invulnerable to water droplets, though this is not suitable for swimming or dunking your head in the sink. The Mifo uses Bluetooth 5.2 and supports SBC, AAC, and aptX. Another purported feature is the ability to wear the Mifo while sleeping. The company says that they specifically designed this earbud for comfort, and those who want to sleep with these should have no issues. Finally, the Mifo comes with touch controls for playback operation. Overall, not much by way of marketing, but at least they have not marketed any outlandish claims and clearly are no worse at it than typical audiophile companies. The Mifo is a very unique looking earbud. That is not an accident. You simply cannot mistake this thing for any other competitor. The design is eye-catching for better or worse. The earbud has a horn shape. It is made of plastic and is very light. The touch-sensitive area is the circular part with the S and O logo. The writing all along the body reflects the audience these earbuds were intended for. Words like football and sport and basketball are written, similar to what is shown on the charging case. Speaking of, the charging case is one of the best feeling cases I've ever seen for one of these kinds of products. It is metal, heavy, and has a locking latch system. The case and the earbuds can be charged together using USB-C. Sport&Outdo say that the charging case and Mifo combination will result in a total of 40 hours of use. Of course, that will depend entirely on the volume and Bluetooth codec you're using and whether noise cancellation is active. The Mifo comes with a short USB charging cable and a couple of replacement ear tips. As for comfort, surprisingly, the Mifo is very easy to wear. No amount of head shaking dislodged the earbuds. The ear tips did not cause any unusual pressure against my ears. And I did try sleeping with the Mifo. I was not able to fall asleep with them in my ears, but that's because I dislike using earbuds when trying to sleep at all. However, the Mifo sat flat within my ears and I had no discomfort while laying on my side. I could wear the Mifo for about 3 hours before needing a break. Overall, the Mifo has good build and accessories and very comfortable design. Compare to something like the AirPods and there's a night and day difference. The Mifo is actually better built if nothing else. When Sport&Outdo contacted me, they gave me some information about the Mifo. They made abundantly clear that this earbud is not intended to compete with audiophile IEMs. The company's goal is to provide a wireless earbud that might still appeal to audiophiles. I thought that was a fair statement. So, because the Mifo is not an audiophile IEM and clearly this thing is intended for casual use, I decided to modify my testing parameters. Typically, I break down the analysis of the frequency range and talk about soundstage and detail retrieval. Here, I'll summarize my findings and try to provide a few examples. This should provide some information for those who are interested, but still keep us on track to talk about the other features. To determine the sound signature of the Mifo, I used it with my iPhone 12 Max. I listened to my test playlist on Amazon Music HD, and I used the stock ear tips. Sport&Outdo say that the Mifo has a balanced sound signature. I think that's an accurate description. The Mifo has a bass emphasis. Sub-bass rumble is marginally emphasized and mid-bass gets a more obvious boost. Separation of sub-bass from mid-bass is average at best, as is the transients. Bass clarity is no better than what you'd hear on something like the Moondrop Quarks. In Mountains by Hans Zimmer, the rumble was clearly audible from the beginning, although I had to increase volume to around 80% to get the full effect. The subwoofer in hip-hop tracks such as Pure Water and Upatech was patently obvious. Subwoofers sounded like they were at the other end of a small room. Drums were a little louder than the sub-bass. Drum strikes are not harsh or sharp or piercing. Instead, they have a blunted thudding sound. The mids are close to neutral. Bass instruments typically sound louder than vocals in a mix. However, the Mifo does not emphasize vocal sibilance or grain. For example, in Orla Gartland's Why Am I Like This, the Mifo presented both Orla sibilance and vocal grain, but did not shove either into my ears. This rendition was similar to what I heard on the neutral Moondrop Corks. Orla's voice was typically one step ahead of mid-centric instruments. However, the drums were as loud as her voice and sometimes slightly louder. The Mifo seems to have a slight upper treble roll-off. It skirts over X-Wings. The Mifo had a slightly softer, less energetic approach to instruments than the Corks. For example, the higher pitched notes of brass and horns were a little louder on the Corks. Clarity in this region, however, was similar between the two. Even at high volumes, I could not get the Mifo to sound harsh or piercing. The Mifo seems to have soundstage that is similar to the Moondrop Aria. In other words, it has average soundstage comparable to audiophile IEMs. The Mifo's detailability is also average when compared against audiophile options. In my New Light footstep test, the Mifo rendered 7 footsteps. In my opinion, the Mifo has a bassy sound signature, but this is not a V-shaped presentation, and there's not an aggressive push of sibilance or treble. Let's get the Bluetooth connection out of the way. Once you pair the Mifo to a device, the two will connect almost immediately whenever you take the earbud out of their case. This is among the fastest reconnections I've encountered and is similar in speed to the Status Audio BT1. Bluetooth connection overall is no different from most other devices. In line of sight, without obstacles, there are no dropouts, but once you introduce walls, the signal degrades fairly quickly. This is consistent with other Bluetooth devices. Bluetooth is a lossy format. Don't get misled by marketing that says otherwise. But you can and should do better than SBC, which is the lowest quality of Bluetooth. Thankfully, the Mifo supports both Apple's AAC and Android aptX. If you're on Apple devices, be it a MacBook, one of their desktops, or a mobile device, you will get the highest Bluetooth codec resolution Apple supports, which is AAC. For Android devices, you'll be limited to aptX, which is still sufficient for casual use. If your device supports LDAC, it will automatically switch down to aptX for the Mifo. Windows is where things become ugly. You see, Windows simply does not support anything other than SBC. You're stuck with the lowest quality imaginable, and that's entirely the fault of this OS and supported hardware. Sadly, if you use the Mifo or any Bluetooth device with Windows, you'll get the lowest common denominator in quality. Let's quickly talk about the Mifo's noise cancellation. There are 3 levels: high, medium, and transparency mode. Unfortunately, there is no option to turn the microphones completely off. There is some minor difference between medium and high cancellation, but you will be hard-pressed to hear it. And frankly, the noise cancellation overall is pretty lackluster. It is a pale imitation of the type you will get on over-ear headphones like the Anker Q30 or even the Apple AirPods. The transparency mode uses the microphones to pump some of the ambient noise into your music so you hear your surroundings. It's not aggressive, but does make an audible difference. Overall, the Bluetooth connection is perfectly agreeable considering what it is. The noise cancellation is not a convincing feature. It's there and it has some effect, but it is no substitute for the type you will find on the premium Sony devices. One side note is that the noise cancellation does not seem to alter the sound signature when I switch between medium and high settings. Sometimes with devices that have noise cancellation, turning the feature on noticeably alters the sound. Here, that's not the case. The DSP in the earbud is working independent of the noise cancellation, or the noise cancellation is simply not strong enough to make any meaningful impact on the sound. The touch controls are pretty self-explanatory. You have access to playback as well as phone answering. You can adjust volume too. The touch area requires dry fingers. I found that slightly damp fingertips resulted in either the Mifo not registering the command or registering the wrong one. You can't use the touch controls while wearing gloves. The Mifo has a weird feature wherein you triple-click the earbud for sleep mode. I have no idea what this is supposed to do. You have to click both earbuds at once for this feature. The problem with simultaneous input is that it's often not simultaneous enough. Either the earbuds will only recognize one side or won't understand at all what's happening, so won't do anything. I did get this sleep function to work once. It just seems to turn the Mifo off. Frankly, it's a lot easier to take the earbuds out and put them in their charging case. I cannot imagine anyone who's about to fall asleep taking the time to repeatedly finger their ear holes when putting the earbud into the case is a much simpler solution. Battery life is not as advertised, but that's typical of any battery-operated device. I never got 40 hours with the Mifo. At best, I think the case and earbuds provided about 30 hours of use. Still, that's plenty for a few days of constant use. Maintaining moderate volume and sticking to SBC will render slightly longer battery life. But what's the fun in that? Look, Bluetooth devices are a difficult concept to get behind. Not only are you dealing with tiny batteries and finite time periods before the battery simply can't hold charge, but you're also dealing with mediocre fit if you're talking about Bluetooth earbuds. I honestly despise the AirPods, and I've had both the original and the Pro. They are poster children of overhyped, half-baked, ugly, buggy crap sold as premium products. They are my standard of what not to do. It's a low bar, I know. But I think the Mifo S at least jumps over this hurdle without much effort. I cannot tell you whether you will enjoy the sound signature. That's up to you. But what I can verify is that the Mifo has some features that might be more enticing than what you'd get from competitors. First, the fit and finish is rather good. This is one of the most comfortable earbuds I have worn. Sport&Outdo did outdo themselves as far as that is concerned. Apple could learn a few things about that. And if you're the type to sleep with earbuds, then the Mifo might work out for you. I doubt you'll fumble around with the sleep function, but laying on your side with this earbud should not pose a problem. The Bluetooth connection is par for the course, so perfectly agreeable for what it is. The touch controls work well, and you get all the controls you need. On the other hand, the noise cancellation is mediocre at best. If that is what you're after, then you will have to look elsewhere, probably at Sony's lineup. Unfortunately, the Mifo does not have a companion application. That's really too bad. I think this earbud could be more useful with an app similar to what Anker provides with their Q30. Imagine being able to add your own EQ and turn noise cancellation completely off. Those two features would be perfect for this earbud. At around $150, you've got to be convinced of at least one feature here that is worth that price tag. I don't think the noise cancellation comes anywhere close to the mark. But fit, comfort, design, and touch controls, yeah, I think those are pretty good. If you've been looking for a wireless earbud for casual use, then the Mifo S is definitely worth considering. It's a bit pricey for what you get, but I think it does make a compelling argument with the features it does well.